Hey, what's up, podcast family? Welcome to another episode, another story. So, a lot of people know the name Jezebel. In fact, some people describe like really mean and terrible women with that word Jezebel. Well, today's story is about a woman who is not Jezebel, but is kind of related to Jezebel. Her name is Athaliah. Well, today's episode is aptly titled The Fall of Athaliah.
Welcome to the Telling Bible Stories podcast. Experience the Bible come alive as we unravel its beauty using today's language.
And now, your storyteller, TOLA Omoniyi.
The royal kingdom of Judah was governed by the family of David. Now, that means every king of Judah, generation to generation, had to come from the lineage of David. And that was the case for Jehoshaphat, who was recorded as one of the greatest kings of Judah. Well, Jehoshaphat had 7 sons, and so when he died, his first son, Jehoram, became king. He was just 32 years of age. Well, I almost forgot to mention that just before Jehoshaphat died, there was a marriage between Jehoram and Athaliah. Athaliah was the daughter of the king of Israel at the time, that's King Ahab, and of course Jezebel. Their union was actually for a political reason, to get Judah and Israel together in some type of way. Jehoram became king, but his wife, Athaliah, was of a very negative influence to him. She made him turn Judah away from the worship of God to worshiping idols. In fact, Jehoram built a temple of Baal right in Jerusalem. It was a spiritual downward spiral for the country of Judah at this time. He got so bad at the influence of his wife that he wanted to ensure that he held on to the throne. So he killed all his brothers, all his 6 brothers, Ahaziah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Michael, Azariah, and Shephatiah, just to ensure that no one could take the throne away from him. And so the word of the Lord came to him through prophet Elisha. You have not followed the footsteps of your father Jehoshaphat, but instead you have encouraged my people to be unfaithful to me. So I will surely deal with you and all your own. You will get a serious chronic intestinal disease which will cause your intestines to come out. Now, following this prophecy, Jehoram started losing battles. He lost to the Philistines, lost to the Arabs, to Edom. In the process, all his sons were killed. Well, apart from one, his last born, Ahaziah. He was also hit by this incurable intestinal disease, just like the prophecy declared. He battled with this for 2 years until he died a very painful death. The funny thing is, no one even mourned his death. In fact, he was not even buried in the royal tombs. His only surviving son, Ahaziah, became king, but it was business as usual, as he was still influenced by his mom, Athaliah. And that was the case for him until he got killed. He was actually assassinated. Now, when her son, Ahaziah, died, Athaliah took advantage of this and took over the throne. She knew the laws. She knew every king of Judah had to be in the lineage of David, which she was not, obviously, besides the fact that she was also a woman. And since she knew they could make any of her grandchildren king, she thought to kill them all. So she immediately ordered the guards to head for the palace and kill all the grandchildren. How cruel and power-drunk can a woman be? Jehoshabeth, one of her daughters, was very different from her mother. She was a worshiper of God, married to the high priest Jehoiada. She heard what her mom was planning to do, so she took off real quick, headed for the palace, and grabbed one of the grandchildren, Joash, from his nanny, and then took him to hiding in the temple. Now, at this time, the little boy Joash was just 1 year old. So Athaliah's evil reign continued for 6 years. She was just terrorizing the entire country, and it was just so bad. Now, by the 6th year, by this time, Joash was now 7 years old, the high priest thought it was time to overthrow the evil queen and make Joash king. So he made the bold move, made a pact with the officers of various units, the military, the task force, and all those guys, came in coalition with them and said, listen, the promise of God to David must stand. His son will rule. Now here's the plan. All the priests and Levites, let's group you guys into 3. Now group 1, you will guard the doors of the temple. Group 2, you will guard the royal palace. Group 3, you will be at the foundation gate. And all the other guys stand in the courtyards of the temple. Now listen, no one is allowed to enter the temple except the priests and Levites on duty. All others carry out your assigned service. Now the Levites must surround the king at all times. Each of you must hold the weapon in your hand. Whoever tries to enter the temple must be killed. You must follow the king wherever he goes. Remember that. Now on the set day, everyone did as planned, and so the priest anointed him with oil, sat him on the throne, and put the crown on his head. And so the celebration began. Everybody was screaming and shouting and happy. Trumpets blowing, people shouting, people singing, "Long live the king! Long live the king!" Now when Athaliah heard of this, she wondered, what in the world is going on? King? What? When I'm still alive? So she stormed into the temple and saw this little boy in the throne with a crown on his head. She screamed, "Treason! Treason! Treason!" But at this time, her cup was full. So they bundled her out of the temple and executed her. Now it was time for purging. They went to the temple of Baal and tore it down, brought down all the idols, and now the high priest set up the worship of the Lord in the temple. Woo! Great! Everything came back to the will and plan of the Lord for Judah. Everyone rejoiced because the reign of the evil Athaliah was now over. The 7-year-old Joash is now king of Judah. Now he broke the cycle by not continuing in the ways of his mother, and because he was still very young, so he was just taking a lot of instructions and directions from the priest. And that was a turnaround for Judah. And that's our story for this episode. There are a number of lessons I learned from this particular story. First is that big decision on who to marry. Now, who you marry is a major significant factor to the fulfillment of your purpose. The marriage of Jehoram to Athaliah, who was the daughter to Jezebel. Yeah, did you know that? She was the daughter to Ahab, who was the husband to Jezebel, yeah? That union alone influenced the downward spiral for Judah. Also, thinking about the way Jehoram turned out, we must train our children in the way of the Lord. Now, Jehoshaphat was a great king. He feared God. He was an amazing king. But he probably did not instill those same values into his son Jehoram. And finally, I choose to say things like this. The plan of God will always stand. As much as evil tried to prevail in taking away the divine royal inheritance from the lineage of David, it ended in praise. And that might be the case for you in your whatever you might be doing, in your place of work or in your endeavors where people are trying to frustrate God's plan for your life. Just like it was for Judah, it will end in praise. And oh, did you know Judah means praise? Well, now you know. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Telling Bible Stories. I had a great time. I hope you did learn one or two things as well. You can check out the story, the full story yourself right there in your Bible. Check it out at 2 Chronicles chapter 21, chapter 22, and chapter 23. It's also recorded in 2 Kings chapter 8, verse 16 to 29, chapter 9, verse 14 to 29, and chapter 11, verse 1 to 21. Don't forget to follow me for some updates on Instagram at TOLA_Omoniyi. Till I catch you on the next one. God bless you.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed every bit of today's Telling Bible Stories with Tola. Do remember to subscribe and share with your friends.